Hold on. Can you all hear me? No, I don't know. Oh, let's see. Hello. How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Welcome. Mixed up my overlays and my underlays, stuff like that. Good to see you all. Thanks for being here, and welcome back to Blackbird News. Thanks to anybody who checked out my music stream on Friday. I appreciate it. Kate is following me on all 3 platforms. Awesome, Kate. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the following and the watching. All right, real quick announcements. I am not going to do another show after today until Thursday. I have a lot. Working on releasing a record, and I got a lot of things going on, and I just need a little bit of space to do that. So I'm going to do a show on Thursday, and it's not going to be at the regular time. It's going to be at 4 p.m. Pacific. So sorry if that's a lot to remember for everybody, but at 4 p.m. Pacific on Thursday will be the next show. So please tell a friend, or, let people know if you have the opportunity or desire. And we'll reconvene then. I just, need to kind of revamp my schedule a little bit. About time for a change, says Kate. All right. Yeah, we'll try out the 4 o'clock time on Thursday, but I just have something going on earlier in the day, so it's just not going to happen at the noon time. So that's what it is. That's what it is. All right. Well, let's get into some news while we're here, shall we? I didn't really see this. This is a couple of months old. Did anybody see? Did anybody see this, or did I don't know. I feel like, or did we talk about it? I can't remember. Oops, hello. It's a wrong background there. That's the wrong background. Hello, hello. That's the right background. Hello. Global warming at 3C by 2050, says German scientists. I mostly am just covering this for the headline because we've been talking about this for so long, man. This has been, we have been talking about the the escalation of climate change, and the fact that it's happening faster and faster, right? Because what happens when it gets warmer? Well, all the things that happen to make it warm speed up, and it gets warmer even faster than that. Has Substack censored your hello? Say what? That doesn't sound right, but okay. I see a hellos. Bella? Oh no. That's sorry. Wrong place. Well, I'm sorry if they I don't know about Substack, y'all. I mean, I like Substack. I'm not gonna as an alternative platform, I have no qualms right now. But I do believe that they are probably censoring and sidelining people and shadow banning people in the same way that other platforms are. It's unfortunate. Anyways, we have been talking about this for, forever. It is still in play. Excuse me. I've been a little bit under the weather on top of all that. I mean, it's happening. It's still in play. I don't know. It's so weird because climate change has become such a non-subject. Like there's two basic takes that I see out there in the world now, which is one is climate change is happening, and we'll just talk about it as if it's a thing that's happening, or climate change is definitely super fake, and why would you ever think that? You're an idiot. But I don't really see people talking about it. I'm sure there are people out there that are talking about it, but I just out in the general populace is what I'm saying. I don't see really people talking about it. I don't see it being a subject that people are really bringing up. And as far as even mainstream news coverage, I see it kind of being covered less and less. And interestingly enough, I went to a small gathering and ran into more people. Remember, I told you that I ran into Peter Kalmus a few weeks ago, and he works at JPL, which is in Altadena, basically, or right next to Altadena. And I ran into some other people that also work at JPL, and they knew Peter Kalmus, and we talked about it a little bit. And as I said in when I talked to Peter Kalmus, he was like, I'm not talking about it anymore, or it's just not becoming, it's not a thing that I'll be talking about much anymore. It has just gone away as a subject that people are talking about. That doesn't mean that it's gone away as a thing that's actually happening. They want it to go away as a subject. They want it to be a thing that people think is not happening or not concerned. People are not concerned about it. I don't know. Maybe this is the time when it's most important to be talked about. There's not much we can do about it as it stands. Other than to lament what has already been done. And I'm sure the future will be full of many more moments when we will definitely lament what has already been done. So to get back to this article, and we've had, so many discussions about accelerating climate change and the fact that it's getting worse at a much faster rate. And I said, as many others have said, that I thought that 3C by 2050 was probably a done deal. I mean, because we're almost at 2C now, very close, and it's 2025. We don't have, that's 25 years from now. We did a massive spike up past 1.5 in the last few years, and it pretty much stayed there globally. 1.5 is gone. It is no longer a guardrail because we've already passed the guardrail. We're out over the cliff, right? If you want to put it in the context of that imagery, you went through the guardrail, you're off the cliff, and you're definitely teetering over the cliff or on your way to flying out over the cliff. And we're about to hit 2C, which was never a guardrail. But I don't see, if we're past 1.5 and we're getting close to 2C, and 2C is, let's say 2030, in the 2030s sometime, why wouldn't 3C be totally plausible by 2050? It just doesn't seem that unlikely to me, and probably more likely than unlikely. And I would counter that anybody who thinks that we're still running on the timeline of 2 or 3C by the end of the century is, probably not working on great information. Denver says 3C by 2040. I wouldn't argue with that either. That would not surprise me either. German scientists warn global warming is accelerating faster than expected, raising the risk of 3C rise by 2050 and forcing Europe to confront unthinkable adaptation. Unthinkable? Well, you better start thinking. Nothing is unthinkable, my friends. But they love to use these words, right? Unprecedented, unthinkable. But better start thinking. For some time now, climate scientists have been discussing a troubling hypothesis: is global warming accelerating? The German Physics Society and the German Meteorological Society are now warning of this in a joint statement. German weekly Die Zeit has discussed the issue with Klaus Richter, who is a resident of the German Physical Society, and Frank Bottcher, chairman of the German Meteorological Society. Richter says the risk is increasing that we will miss the goal of keeping global warming below 2C. That was never a goal, my friends. 1C was the original goal. We believe the trend towards 3C rise can no longer be ruled out, especially given current global politics. We therefore call for decisive action, blah, 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 and stronger climate protection, blah, blah, blah. We have entered a new stage of climate change. Global warming now appears to be accelerating. We see it in Germany too. The data is so compelling that members of our society felt they had a duty to speak out. Well, you can see that it's accelerating. Like, you don't even have to be a scientist. You just have to, be like awake, not in a coma, not in a stupor. What was it? I just saw a really good, I saved a really good meme. Sorry. Sorry. Here it is. Let's see if I can get this up on my. Can I get this to go right in here? There we go. I have a message to future generations. Please accept our apologies. We were roaring drunk on petroleum. That's about it. Again, sorry to sound like a broken record, but there's a whole bunch of alternative journalists out there who are basically giving you the and not to say that the reason is wrong, but giving you the line that climate change is fake because I don't know, government control and whatnot. Government control is all very real and well. And maybe they might use climate change as a reason, but that doesn't negate the actual reality of climate change. So got to think that one through as well. The forecast is far more dramatic than current research. Taking climate policies into account, most projections put warming at about 2.7 C by the end of the century. Slap your knee. By 2050, that would be roughly 2 C. How do you reach 3 C by 2050? Somebody explain that one to me. Well, they're obviously, projecting that on a very linear timeline. It's accelerating by this rate, and that rate shall stay constant throughout 75 years. Okay. Yeah, that's not scientific. Please don't listen to anybody who thinks like that. That's not science. That's wishful thinking and propaganda. We are looking at 25 years ahead and beyond, so this is not a forecast in the strict sense, but current observations give reason to fear that such extreme warming is possible. The 2.7 C projection is based on the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change's mid-range scenarios. The risk of 3 C by 2050 falls within the IPCC's worst-case scenarios. And so there is a track for 3 C by 2050. And unfortunately, recent data aligns more closely with those, of course. It always has. It always has. At least for the last, if you're watching the track and the data and everything, and if you've been watching for the last 10 years, it's tracking the worst case scenario. It's always been tracking the worst case scenario. It's never stopped tracking the worst case scenario. Why would you think it would be any different at any other point in the timeline? Just go ahead and track the worst case scenario. That's what it is. It's probably worse than the worst case scenario. Granted, years ago there were people that it's all going to be over next year. The sea ice will melt and that'll be it, and we'll just melt down and blaze of glory. 6 months from now, everything will be on fire or something like that. And it's like, well, there were people that got mad at me. They insisted that this was reality. Here we are 7 years later. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying somewhere in the middle is the truth. Somewhere in the middle is reality. Could we reach 3 C by 2040? And maybe, wouldn't surprise me, but I'd say 3 C by 2050 is, very likely. Give or take a couple of years, 5 or 10 years. Who knows? I don't see a reason, although it also wouldn't surprise me if we had a sudden global meltdown, all the ice melted and, it was all over. Civilization was over by next year. I mean, many reasons for that, but I just don't see it, there are timelines and there are timelines, right? Like there's the graph that's the, just slowly rising. That doesn't make any sense. And then there's the graph that's, you can see the curve up. And if you just follow that curve, that's the path we're on. And then there's the people that are like, boop, we're straight to the moon, straight to 8C, like that's not likely either. Somewhere in the middle is the reality. So just working on that. Just working on that. Exponential, we have reached the hockey stick part of the curve. Well, I don't know if we have. Have we reached the hockey stick part of the curve? I think we're on an accelerating timeline. I do agree that we are accelerating. It seems all the signals point to the fact that we're accelerating. Absolutely. Are we hockey sticking yet? I don't know. I don't actually believe that or see that. But I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm just saying, I feel like that we're just going to it's just gradually going to get worse and worse. And at a point, there is a point at which we will gradually shift into a state where things are unrecognizable. I don't know when that is. What does that mean, Denver? Gleichschaltung? I don't know what that is. People that discount climate change because it's part of the centralizing of everything. Climate change conflated and resources for the purpose of humanity. Uniformity, central control of all power. Okay. Yeah, I find it to be one of the most infuriating ideas out there. Right along with people that say like this social movement or that social movement is totally engineered. It's funny. The right-wing libertarian folks are the ones telling you that all the lefty right beatnik civil rights lefty movement was all social engineering and MK Ultra, and I'm like, are you sure you're not social engineering and MK Ultra? Because I think actually that's closer to the truth. I can tell you that people that hew closer to Rush Limbaugh are way closer to MK Ultra, social engineering than people who want peace and love and want the military industrial complex to stop, cease to exist. Anyways, there's so much, and there's so much nuance in there, of course. But my complaint is that, you might say a social movement is engineered or propaganda, and that's fine. Just like you might say that climate change is engineered or propaganda, that's fine too. The thing is that there's a reality in there that it's basing itself on, right? Like people weren't all just like brainwashed zombies going, I want to love my fellow man, I want social programs for all, I am being told to. No, people actually resonated with this message, responded to it positively because it sounded pretty good. So it's kind of ridiculous, if the Beatles were a Tavistock creation, they're still fucking good musically. So I don't really care, if you're like, I hate them because they, whatever. You don't have to like the Beatles. You don't have to like the Beatles, but I'm just saying they had musical merit all on their own without being I'm getting way off base here. And back to the story. They are making me listen to this record 18 times, and now I am. John Lennon told me he was bigger than Jesus. Heck yeah, Denver. The Beatles are one of my all-time faves too. And that's the thing. People have feelings and they're legitimate feelings, right? Like no kings might be an engineered protest, but that doesn't mean that people's feelings aren't void and null and void. They're real feelings. They really feel this way about the Trump administration. They really feel this way about what they feel, right? Or what they think or what they believe. They really believe those things. They're not, those are true and correct feelings. I don't care if the No Kings thing is engineered. The problem is that they're using people's true and correct feelings to, limit and hang out them over in this, right? To get them to expend their energy over here and think like, well, I went and did my protesting, so things will change. No, it doesn't work like that. And to all the people that think that the Beatles were a Tavistock creation, they killed John Lennon, by the way, probably for being a peacenik and for being like outspoken against authoritarian control. Sounds good. All right. But there's a lot of screwing up people's feelings with what's being pushed out there. And now more than ever, right? People are being inundated by information that's, propaganda that's posing as information, right? Infiltration, thought shaping, psychic driving, whatever you want to call it. It's bigger than ever. And while little guy is calling big guy an op, I'm going to say you could point the finger both ways. And you wouldn't know whether little guy was an op or big guy was real. How's that for a confusion? I look at more and more these days. I look at little guy as an op too, on the internet. But believe what you want. It's your brain. You do your own thing with it. Oh, anyways, well, so they're just talking about how 2.5 years is a short period. Is that enough to draw such conclusions? They're talking about the sudden rise in temperatures. I mean, it gets a little ridiculous because they're saying we could breach the 1.53 threshold possibly as early as next year. No, we have already breached, and many scientists already know this. So it's that is a silly thing to say. Or a 3C rise by 2050, which we cannot rule out is already within the range of the IPCC's scenario. Okay, I'm going to stop reading this because I think we get it. I'm just, it's accelerating. It's accelerating, and I don't see any signs that indicate that we are not accelerating or that things aren't getting worse. But let's see. Our society is run by insane people for insane objectives. I think we're being run by maniacs for maniacal ends, and I think I'm liable to be put away as insane for expressing that. Yep. That's what's insane about it. Yep. Yeah. So I don't care if you want to think it was an MK Ultra thing. I think that's pretty right on. That's a pretty right on statement. And et cetera, et cetera. I will say here to that. Okay. Moving on. In totally unrelated news and in soap opera land. Remember Netflix was going to take over Warner Brothers, and now Paramount was like, not so fast. No, not so fast. we have lots of money and we can't have this. We need to rule everyone. And so Paramount is now launching a hostile bid to take over Warner Brothers, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I think, John, I agree with that. Yeah, the reality is locally changing climate, which you can see. You can see it with your own eyes. That was a big hit, Tavistock Man. After Trump vowed to intervene. So Trump is vowing to intervene in this, which, sure, sounds like free market to me. Sounds like capitalism at its best to me. Paramount Skydance on Monday launched a hostile bid to take over Warner Brothers. Shortly after U.S. President Donald Trump publicly expressed skepticism of Netflix's proposed deal to acquire parts of the media company. And on social media, especially Twitter, they're couching this as like, well, Netflix is lefty, and we don't want that. Okay. You sure? Are you sure? It's a big market share. There's no question about it, Trump said late Sunday. Apparently, well, David, Larry Ellison is, vying with Elon Musk as being the most evil and also wealthiest men in the world. And, Oracle is definitely a government / Mossad operation, whatever we want to call it. So they're trying to eat up everything that they can in order to make sure that everyone is good and properly brainwashed. Apparently, so they announced a hostile bid attempting to subvert the Netflix deal by taking an all-cash $30 per share offer directly to Warner Brothers shareholders. Apparently, Jared Kushner is involved in this. So, yeah, great. Private equity firm led by Jared Kushner, not Don Kirshner, but Jared Kushner, is part of Paramount's hostile takeover bid for Warner Brother Discovery, according to a regulatory filing. Ellison was reportedly at the White House last week urging the Trump administration to block the Netflix bid for Warner Brothers. I mean, at some point, I think all these people are. It doesn't really matter. They're all the same people, and they're all evil. But yeah. Sorry, I'm totally ignoring the other chats. I apologize. Looking at the Substack chat. Kate says, I never followed the Beatles. All my friends were crazy about the Beatles. I stuck to garage bands and coffee houses because you are way cool. All right. Excuse me. Yeah, definitely Denver. Kushner, I voted for Kushner to be the unilateral interface of all regulatory and international dealings. I don't know what the problem is, right? And I've heard many people bring that up. That laws. Who knows? What are laws? We don't know. We don't know, and we don't care. President inserting himself in the deal is obviously problematic, regardless of the parties involved. Yeah. Elizabeth Warren expressed similar concerns about Trump's potential corruption of the regulatory process. Well, now you're concerned? She's over there. No, I'm concerned. Okay. Okay. Great. Thanks, Liz. Well, well, well. We have a monopoly problem for sure in the US because certain laws have been lifted. Excuse me. I'm sorry. That at one time did not allow for such consolidation of power and influence over our media platforms or outlets. But now, just go for it. Here's other random news. Apparently, Mangione was not read his Miranda rights when he was arrested. People are, we've talked about this before. This was a weird story. Well, I wonder if this is going to impact the case. Apparently, there was 2 backpacks found, or supposedly they found his backpack in one place and then found his backpack with him. Defense attorneys have alleged that Detweiler violated Mangione's rights by questioning him for nearly 20 minutes without reading him his Miranda rights. They argue that mistake should justify barring prosecutors from introducing any testimony about the statements Mangione made to police that morning. I still don't believe that it was actually him, but because this is a weird, the whole way that the thing played out is strange. It's just as strange as any other story out there. Let's see. Michael Powell was the first FCC commissioner to propose the end of all cross ownership rules for media ownership in any one market. He was likely forced to resign shortly after, and then the next guy got it done. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so this has been kind of making the rounds in the news. Although, when you remember when the thing happened and they were looking for him, there's a lot of strangeness around the story. Yikes, Bella. Dang. um if you like the show, you want to support the show, there's lots of ways to support the show in the description box. Lots of links, right? You know all the links. You can also support on Substack and on Patreon. Again, for the people that weren't here at the beginning of the show, I'm not going to do another show until Thursday. Thursday will be the next Black Bear News, and it will be at 4 p.m. Pacific. So note the time change. Sorry, I have a lot going on this week, and just my schedule is like just super crazy, and so that will be the next time that I do a show. Um, on the body camera, Detweiler was seen stepping out of the restaurant and calling a supervisor. I guess it was the arresting officer. Yes, he's here. That's him. Detweiler is heard saying he's acting real nervous. I'm 100% sure it's him. According to body camera footage, Mangione told officers he was homeless. As officers checked with dispatch to confirm Mangione's identity, Mangione sat at his table to finish his breakfast, which is totally what somebody who's really nervous does. Um, Detweiler said his supervisor instructed him to inform Mangione he was under police investigation, and again warned him against using a fake identification. I guess he had shown them a fake ID. After the warning, Mangione told police his real identity and birthday, according to Detweiler and the body camera footage. When asked by an officer why he lied about his name, Mangione said in the footage, "That was the ID I had in my wallet." Speaking of MK Ultra, I think people think that this whole situation could fit an MK Ultra scenario. Yeah, and they are well connected. His family is well connected, right? So either he is an op of some kind, or that's what people say, or he was MK Ultra in some way. That's what people say. Just all this is alleged. I don't know. I don't. It's a weird story. The whole time I've been looking at the story, I think it's weird. Okay, Kate says, okay, yep. I suspect he is being used to blackmail the family. Um, sure. I mean, yeah. I. It is very, very difficult these days to take any kind of news story or event, especially stuff like this. It's hard to take them at face value on any level because so many things these days seem like engineered to do something psychologically to people, right? The very least to get a reaction out of people. But it's really hard to figure out what the real players are doing or what the real motives are. This has looked hinky to me, right? Remember the just a few months ago there was an assassination of a wasn't it somebody who was high up in in a healthcare, like a health insurance industry. It was a woman. Remember that? She was killed on the 33rd floor, right? And like that one went away like really fast. I think maybe the guy killed himself or was killed very quickly. But same kind of thing, right? Like some Seymour Hersh discussed MK Ultra a long time ago. If some hedge fund wants the family assets, that would explain the motive to set him up. The Blackstone executive. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. That had all the earmarks of something fishy too. Like they all have something fishy going on. Like it's really, it sucks because it's hard to tell, what's really going on and what's happening. And you really just cannot, take these events at face value on any level. Like you really have to just go, okay, I don't sure. Let's wait like 3 days and see what kind of madness rolls out after this. Um. Oh, I'm going to read this real quick. This was interesting. This kind of reads a little bit like an advertisement for somebody's technology, but they give some interesting um, perspectives in here that I thought was worth reading. Okay. The Black Swan event about to hit AI republished. You are about to learn more about computer design than your 17-year-old. We try to make it painless. This is December 5th. If you follow us here, you're probably interested in one of the greatest technology headbutts about to happen in the last 50 years. There is a Black Swan event now hitting the AI world, and you have a front row seat, and we are telling you what to look for. Maybe you joined the site because you're originally interested in voter fraud and saw our work in 2022, but now you are sucked into the big fight about to happen, and you have the ringside seat. Here's the fight. Here's the Black Swan. 99% of the tech planet, even the guys you love like Elon and Vivek, are telling you America could be falling behind the Chinese in AI and needs quadrillions of dollars in data centers to catch up. They are backed by every major tech company on planet Earth. Every consulting company publishes white papers about the race toward more data centers. TV pundits in the financial space, like Charles Payne, and the bald guy who jumps around, screams with his shirt sleeves up to the elbow and tells you which stocks to buy, pitches data centers. They are in the near corner. Then there's us, scrappy Austin guys who built some pretty famous systems, eBay fraud detection, TSA no-fly list, that sort of stuff, telling you they are all wrong. America has 1,000 times the compute power it thinks it has and needs 0 more data centers. This is how these things start. Some small entity stands up and says, "It ain't so." For 2,500 years, children heard the story of the emperor has no clothes. We are now those children. Often big things come from such types. This is a Rocky movie. Instead of a guy in a sweatshirt running through slums at dawn to fight the undisputed champ, you are reading a Substack about some guys nobody ever heard of telling you the whole world is wrong. The world isn't wrong about a weather forecast. They aren't wrong about CO2 levels in the atmosphere. They are fundamentally wrong about the single biggest tech challenge in the last 40 years. Data centers are obsolete. There is no corporate or government application that requires a data center. That's why you want to stay tuned here, because to prove we are correct, we have live customers. There must be a Black Swan event where a massive data center is moved to a computer the size of a carton of cigarettes. When that becomes widely known, wow, they're just screwed. Our guys are building quiet systems for electric utilities, and now for some famous politicos, demonstrating data centers are never needed. If this is true, I would imagine these guys wouldn't be around for very long. Our new friends in Virginia, at stake are trillions of dollars in revenue plus trillions more in stranded infrastructure. Our new friends in Virginia holding vigils and fighting with town councils to stop their state being overrun with data centers, they are about to join the fight on our side. That's no bullshit. We are taking trillions if we are right, talking trillions if we are right, or trillions from the other side if we are wrong, but trillions nonetheless. We don't get the dough, but that's what's at stake. Tell me this, is there any fight more interesting for you to watch right now? I don't know. I'm so interested. Well, maybe watching Trump fire half the government, DC and Maryland homeowners selling their houses at any price because they lost their hidden income. That's more fun, but we are close. Blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of blah, blah in here. They're saying that these computers are all you need, this size of computer. You are looking at a data center that runs 680 million Federal Election Commission records and 200 million transactions per second and uses the power of a table lamp. The FEC needs a multi-million-dollar data center plus a cloud, which is just someone else's data center. They need 80 people to run this thing. They use the electric power of a city of 25,000 to run it. They use over 400,000 gallons of water a day to cool it. We do it all on that little computer, not both of them, either of them today. How the heck do we do this? This is a longer post. Basically, they're saying that they're using I/O. Let's take a walk into software and chip design and show you why you see more of the future than the tech writers at the Wall Street Journal, blah, blah, blah. What is I/O? I/O is the hero or the goat of our story. If you understand I/O, you can see the future of the tech industry. Computers have CPUs, the brain. Big computers have lots. Your phone has at least one. The CPU operates at silicon speed. That's close to the speed of light. It does a calculation or other piece of meaningful work. When it finishes the calculation, it leans back into what is called layer one cache, grabs the next thing, instruction, piece of data, called an I/O event. I/O stands for input output, and that is what computers do. They process data using a CPU to deal with I/O events. Let's be the CPU for a moment and make the critical point. A CPU does one instruction, one thing, and we will say that one thing is a day in human terms. It's a nanosecond, but we are going to give you the relative value here. So if we say that nanosecond is the equivalent of a day, what's next? Well, there's the I/O event. So with modern computers, if we call the CPU action the equivalent of a day, the next I/O event is the equivalent of 100 years. Yeah, a century. So every time a CPU finishes a task, it waits the equivalent of a century in human terms for the next task. That is latency. One day's work, wait a century. One task, wait a century. One task, wait a century. You get the picture. Now, you don't see that on your desktop PC because it processes so few transactions. Try running the billing system for AT&T. AT&T needs a data center occupying blocks of space in Dallas. They need 23 days. Fully using a massive data center to generate 125 million monthly bills. They spend $1.2 billion a year, and 99% of the energy consumed is for, yep, you guessed it, for latency. The CPU isn't doing squat. These computers are waiting for I/O events. Now you can see why those nanoseconds add up. The computer world has really smart guys and women to fix this. Obviously, everyone knows this. Well, you are correct. The chip designers made chips to run faster and faster, so the speed hit the latency problems. Results come in faster because chips were smaller and faster, but the latency persisted. Why? Okay, now they're getting into some seriously technical stuff. What nobody did was optimize to take advantage of innovations in the chip. Sorry. That processor down. Sorry. Why optimize anything if chips are getting faster every day? No need. Our team worked with one of the intelligence agencies several decades ago on a classified project that sidestepped all that software. Our team had to build software that knew about the underlying chip and optimized I/O to such a degree that today we run from 1,000 to 1,000,000 times faster than any current tech. Whoa. Why aren't these guys super duper extra rich? Take out the data centers and you will save money. Yeah. You guys are already on top of this. A better way is to move all compute to a point where the data resides, which we do and is the subject of a future post. We also use AI to store the data in a manner in which it will be retrieved, called locality of reference, and other posts there too. The result is our fractal technology runs at quantum speed today on current hardware, accelerates about 95% of all government and commercial applications without a data center. So basically, they're just saying that they have technology that will make data centers obsolete. I don't know. They're spending so much money making data centers. My thought is it's the building, just like everything else. It's the financing and the building of the data centers that makes everything go forward. even if it's not necessary. And my guess is that these guys will be sidelined somehow if they don't want this. They'll take the technology, they'll use it for their own purposes, and they'll sideline these guys because they want to do both. They want to have the technology, but they want to keep building the data centers and sucking up everything in the land to make everything more scarce. It fits into the waste the waste industrial complex, if you will. Silicon is already outdated tech. Yeah. We'll see. Anyways, I thought it was, sorry for jumping through that article very quickly, but it was so much interesting to me. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, other people are saying that the AI boom will be over because China or DeepSeek or other entities out there will be able to do it, faster, cheaper. It will be open source, and then that will leave, all these people fighting to monetize their AI completely like flatlined. But whatever. It's a scale of data for total information awareness, mass interoperability for the purpose of surveillance. Yeah. Maybe the surveillance isn't as capable as this no data center modality. It's capable enough, though. Again, I keep going back to Sabrina Wallace because I keep listening to Sabrina Wallace. It's damn interesting stuff. And if you listen to her, and if you actually, believe that any part of what she's saying is going on, well, then you would probably understand that we're super extra screwed already. It's hard for me to live in such a paranoid state, but also easy for me to understand. Easy for me to also understand that maybe I should be just a little more paranoid. I don't know. Okay, last thing I want to look at today is the UK. 82% of Britons say Israel should be excluded from Eurovision. This is a very important subject here. Who cares about Eurovision? It's the 82% of Britons don't like Israel. So I suppose that should show you how people feel. In general. And I would say that 82% of Americans don't like Israel. In general, I think Israel is extremely unpopular. And any said support or the idea that there's just a bunch of mass anti-Semitism or people want to whatever, want to support Israel or blah 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 blah. Like Israel's a victim, and that people care is complete rubbish, right? So just on a mass level, I think everybody understands what's going on, and all they're doing is trying to work overtime to demonize and actually criminalize people who are thinking that they understand what's going on and saying something about it. I don't know how long that's going to continue, because that's a like a literal Big Brother moment. You will not believe the evidence of your eyes and ears, right? You will believe the evidence that the party tells you is true, right? 2 + 2 = 5. And again, they're going forward in that manner. I don't know how workable that is, unless you have everybody in some kind of digital prison and turn everybody into a robot, or take everybody out who thinks this way as a warning to the other people to don't think that way, which is kind of like where 1984 went and where we're going. We're going in that direction if we don't wake up, do something different, demand that something different be done. I don't know what that is. But they're hit them every way that you can, right? Boycotts, just not playing along, not believing the story, not playing along with the story, etc. Don't send your kids off to die in wars. Don't allow your kids to join the military for any reason. This is not. I thank people for their service, or I understand why people might have joined the military in the past, why people might think that's their only road out, blah, blah, blah. I get all that. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Oh, then they'll have a draft. Then just don't go. Resist. Okay. That does it for me, guys. What did I want to tell you? Was there any other information I wanted to give you before I go? Not sure. Yeah, I'll see you guys on Thursday at 4 p.m. And working on putting a record out. I'll let you guys know about that. I just need to focus on that. Appreciate y'all. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. And as usual, or as always, beware the bear.